Hello, this is Chris Norman. Welcome to another episode. And this one, we're going to talk briefly about the super. And really just two questions. One, should you add a queen excluder to your supers or underneath your supers? And two, when to add your supers. And so if you have not yet read the articles that we published regarding nectar flows and honey flows, when they stop, when they start, definitely check those out. They'll give you an idea really of when you're going to be adding your super. Remember, the super, it's kind of a used term throughout the industry, is simply just where your honey will go. The brood box, and it could be a large, a medium, that's really where the bees go, right? Their honey goes. The super is where your honey will be at. So let's talk about one of the questions, which is the queen excluder. Should you add one? And really depends on, do you want the queen to lay eggs and larvae in the super? Most of the time, that's probably not a good idea. It makes it a lot more confusing. And so the question would be, are you using two boxes, in a sense, two deep brood boxes, or three medium boxes, or are you using a single box for your bees? If you're using a single box, you have to use a queen excluder because she will always move up in the super. If you're using a two deeps or three mediums, that's plenty of room. You can just go ahead and actually add the super on top. A lot of times, and she's not actually going to move up into the super most of the time. So that's the question for the queen excluder. What about when to add your super? There's kind of a standard saying is that if they're about 80% filled or 90% filled, you can add your super. That can get kind of confusing. What does that actually mean? Basically, when you're looking into the hive, when you take off the inner cover, right, you're looking into the hive, do you see bees lining 8 out of 10 or let's say 7 out of 8, depending on obviously your construction, 80% of the hive body? Do you see bees lining the frames, right? Do you see them obviously expanding? And their majority, if not all of the frames are already drawn and now things are being added to them. Or if you added already drawn frames, again, 80% of those should be occupied by something. And if you haven't done that, then all of them should be drawn and they should be now readily adding that. And essentially, if you calculate all the space on the frames, 80% of them would already be occupied with something. At that point, you can then add your super on top, and knowing that they'll be very quickly, the next week or two, depending on hatching going on in the brood nest, they'll be moving up into the super to add that honey. Or nectar that's coming in. So that's kind of an assessment. And really, it's kind of, again, an art. We talked about it before, right? Science versus art. And these are things where you're just kind of get an indication, hey, are they full enough? What happens if they're not? Let's kind of talk about that. What happens if they're not full enough and you add a super? Is that going to harm them? It can, depending on the weather outside. Is it too cold? Adding that extra top, now all of a sudden they can't keep both boxes or multiple boxes warm if it's gonna be cold outside. What if you only put a nuke on there, right? You put a nuke in there, there's 5 frames, all the rest are empty, and you add your super on top. A lot of times they still will move up into it and they basically ignore the rest. So basically they move up, the queen will start laying in the top box, and the side all the other frames aren't even drawn. And so it's from an efficiency perspective, it's best to don't put the super on right away. Again, allow the bees to grow out their box or boxes to about 80% capacity. And at that point, after that point, you can go ahead and add your super on with what we talked about today. So hopefully it gives some ideas going on there regarding the super. Any questions, let us know. Also, please check out those articles. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description below. So happy beekeeping.